My adored mother-in-law always showed me great tenderness. She would pinch me lightly or hug me tightly, telling me how adorable I was and that she could not resist a man like me. However, when I told my wife about it, she doubted my words and accused me of making up the story. Despite my attempts to convince her otherwise, my wife Sarah simply laughed at my arguments. She teasingly remarked that, from my stories, I seemed to have a knack for talking to women and charming them easily. "Michael, stop overthinking things," she said. "My mom just complimented you as a wonderful son-in-law and gave you a warm family hug." My wife grinned mischievously and headed into the kitchen to prepare dinner. I stood there wondering if I had exaggerated the situation. After all, it seemed unlikely that my mother-in-law would openly harass me. However, given that she had been living alone for a long time, it was possible that she couldn't help but be attracted to an attractive man, seeking attention for herself. Regardless, my mother-in-law remained a very attractive woman. While I was pondering, my spouse Sarah had already prepared dinner and called me over. I refrained from talking further on the subject, as my wife would not have believed me anyway. A few weeks later, my wife announced that she was going on a business trip abroad and would be away for about 2 weeks. To keep me company and keep me from getting bored, her mother, Anna, would be helping me. She will do the cooking and cleaning. Before I could say anything or object, my wife hurried out of the house with her suitcase. As she left, she shouted to me not to miss me. 2 days had passed since my wife had left. While I was at work, my mother-in-law arrived, cooked a meal, fed the 3 parrots, who chattered enthusiastically, a skill she had passed on to them, and left, leaving me alone in a cold bed. When I returned home Friday night, however, I found my mother-in-law in the kitchen cooking something delicious. "Hello, my handsome boy," she exclaimed loudly. "Go take a shower, freshen up while I prepare the food." I thanked Anna and, feeling hungry, quickly headed for the shower. When I returned to the kitchen, my favorite hamburgers, fried potatoes, and seaweed salad were waiting for me. After I finished eating, my mother-in-law stood up and started massaging my shoulders, offering to give me a massage. "Relax, son-in-law," she said. "You work tirelessly from morning to night. You need to relax. My daughter is gone, and you're all alone. It must be boring." I was stunned by this turn of events, but I didn't protest. I showered my mother-in-law with compliments on the delicious dinner and the fantastic massage. I was completely relaxed. I only came out of my relaxed state when my mother-in-law led me into the bedroom. And then it all started. Mother-in-law turned out to be cunning and patiently waited for an opportunity, and I was just grateful for her care. My wife was going on another week-long business trip, and every evening my mother-in-law took me from work. It was never boring. Finally, the day came when my wife returned from her business trip, and my mother-in-law and I, of course, went to meet her. Upon arrival, Sarah kissed me and then asked me if I had missed her. I smiled and replied that with a mother like hers, it was impossible to miss her. We laughed. And then my mother-in-law spoke up. "Listen, my daughter, tomorrow I will take your husband away. I want him to accompany me to the beach so that I can sunbathe and swim in the warm sea." "Okay, Mom," my wife replied. "I would go with you too, but I have to work." At that moment, I felt relieved and happy to be going to the beach with my favorite mother-in-law. I love my wife dearly, but my mother-in-law is something else entirely. She attracts in a forbidden way, and the forbidden always beckons me. Sometimes thoughts come over me that this is all wrong, but my desires coupled with my mother-in-law being so available bring me back to reality. I don't want it to end. Her massages are heavenly, and of course you can imagine that she does a great job with other types of massages as well, not always using her hands.